John Wall, watched by Kobe White to start the night. And that is what made John Wall spectacular at times for Washington. Because that's what I'm getting a sense of with some of the free agent signings, some trades, some coaching changes. Feels like mid-range has a chance to get back into the game a little.
Well, it should, because if you got guys who can, there's a three-point shooter, DeMarcus Cousins.
I can already tell what the top comments in this video are going to be before I even begin to work on this video. Mike, it's just preseason. Stop overreacting. Well, if there's one thing that I'm not ever going to say it's just preseason for, it's when two star players return from absolutely gruesome typically career ruining and career altering injuries and absolutely dominate, well, not dominate, but just show that they could still ball. Like, I was expecting DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall to literally be shells of their former selves. And although they're not the speediest, well, at least DeMarcus Cousins isn't the speediest, they're both really good players and great complementary pieces potentially on a very good team on the Western Conference. But there is still one variable that's going to determine whether they're going to be able to compete in the Western Conference or not. So what's going on, guys? Your boy Mike here. Before we jump into this video, man, make sure you subscribe and turn on our notifications for a chance to win a PlayStation 5. If you've already turned on my notifications and subscribed before, you're already entered. Just make sure that you hit that bell and subscribe, and you can enter for a chance to win a PlayStation 5. If you want an additional entry, make sure you're subscribed to my gaming channel, TheFlightMike TV. And I want to give a shout out to our brand new Mike Mafia members, Jorge Vera Ruiz, Zach, and Jose Santos, and YouTube David. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, the Houston Rockets have been in the midst of one of the most overly melodramatic off seasons I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Russell Westbrook demanded a trade, and James Harden initially reiterated his desire to stay in Houston, but his actions displayed that his heart wasn't necessarily in Houston. Now, currently, James Harden is quarantining because, well, he decided to go clubbing in the midst of a global pandemic and violated several NBA security precautions as opposed to joining his team in training camp. And for the most part, he's come under fire for his behavior. Hell, even Steven Jackson roasted him for not reporting to camp and supporting his new head coach.
Maybe it's just me, bro. I don't know, but you weird. One, to me, it's just simple. James Harden don't want to be held accountable. D'Antoni is the worst defensive coach in NBA history. Ain't gonna win shit, ain't won shit as the head coach. And he easy to run over. So James is trying to continue to be around close to D'Antoni so he can't be held accountable. And then again, what type of dude is you? The Rockets finally get a young black coach. A young black coach get an opportunity, and you don't want to show up to camp. You don't want to play for him. How that look? And you wonder why every time a black coach get a job, they put him in a bullshit situation. Look what you doing. What a real one would do is go play for that black coach and make him look good and build with John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, some real ones. But obviously you want to chase rappers.
So let me know what you guys think about Steven Jackson's take over there. I know he could be polarizing sometimes and controversial, so let me know what you guys think about his opinion, whether you agree with it or not. But the moment John Wall got traded for Russell Westbrook, for the most part, we were all singing a very similar tune. This was a very lopsided trade that was favoring the Washington Wizards because they got to swap out their once former franchise cornerstone John Wall, who tore his Achilles, for a player with a very similar play style that was fully healthy in Russell Westbrook. And you add the fact that they signed DeMarcus Cousins to a veteran minimum, which is great, don't get me wrong, it's a great contract. You can make the argument that this isn't necessarily a huge upgrade over the roster that they put around James Harden last year. As a result, James Harden has been acting kind of weird. He has yet to report to training camp, obviously because he's quarantining, and that means that this is quite possibly one of the most important preseason games in the history of the Houston Rockets franchise. Because if John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins come out and show that they can actually ball and they could still play, they still have a little bit of a burst in their step, then it could kind of convey to James Harden that, hey, you may want to consider staying here. Now, that's not to say that there may not be issues in terms of just plain schematic fit with John Wall and James Harden, but you have to also remember that James Harden came out and said that he prefers John Wall over Russell Westbrook. In terms of a schematic fit, I don't think Russell Westbrook and James Harden had any personal issues or personal beefs, but I digress because John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins took the floor together, and this is very significant. I don't remember the last time such a situation has happened where a player that hasn't played in the NBA in 2 years and a player that hasn't played in the NBA in a year and a half that happened to be teammates in college, mind you, in Kentucky, that were both former All-Stars, made their debut for the same exact team. But they took the floor together, and I'm going to just show you guys the highlights for yourselves. You guys may have been watching the highlights already as this video has been playing, and this video may have been copyright claimed, so if you want to just further support me and leave a like, that'd be great. But as you guys could see, John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins are miles and miles ahead of what I expected them to be performing at in their return in this NBA preseason game. Now, again, it is just preseason. Who knows how their Achilles and ACLs are going to be able, well, Achilles and ACL, because DeMarcus Cousins is the only one that has torn his ACL out of this group, but who knows how well they could hold up during a regular season. I personally am trying to hold out hope that this unit will be able to perform together, and hopefully James Harden will be able to come back and throw them over the hump. I'd like to at least see James Harden give this roster an opportunity, but I feel like the Houston Rockets are in a remarkable situation regardless. James Harden or not, well, obviously James Harden is a huge difference maker. I feel like this team, if they're coached really well, could potentially make it as a 8th or 7th seed without James Harden, depending on the return they get if they do trade James Harden. If James Harden comes back, I really would like to see the dynamic between him and John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, because now he has a floor spacing big man who also has the ability to post up, who is a former All-Star that has gone through some adversity recently as well in DeMarcus Cousins. I would really like to see James Harden give this roster a chance, but there are still issues about schematic fit and whether they would all work together. So let me know in the comment section down below, what would you do if you were James Harden? Would you give the Houston Rockets a chance, or would you hold out of training camp in the regular season until you get traded? Would you sit out of games? Aside from that, I'm your boy, TheFlightMike. And let me know if there's any other preseason games that caught your eye that you believe I should cover next. I'm going to catch you guys in our next upload.